Rose, and this is No One Asked Her, where we speak the truth anyway. Today, I'm very grateful to be joined by my incredible guest, Nick Matau. He is a US Navy veteran. He's an activist, and he's one of the brilliant voices right now waging against the misinformation war surrounding Israel. I'm so grateful to have him on the show. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you, Firerose. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm super excited.
Thank you so much for coming in. I've been such a fan of all of the content that you've been making for years now, and I'm just fascinated to know. Firstly, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Wow.
I really appreciate that.
You were in the US Navy for 12 years?
Almost 12 years,
Almost 12 years.
On submarines, fast attack, nuclear-powered submarines, yeah.
That's incredible. And how did you sort of decide that was something that you felt called to do?
Good question. I was good at school. Didn't like it. I got bored very easily, but I was good at it. And so one day I'm in college doing chemical engineering. I realized I didn't like that so much as I thought I would, but I was interested in engineering. Navy comes in, long story short, I get, I think, close to a perfect score on the ASVAB, and they're just like, you want to be a nuclear engineer? And I'm like,
okay.
Don't even know. Yeah. I thought it was nuclear bombs. What do you mean by that? They're like, no, you're going to be working with a nuclear reactor, and you're going to be powering either a carrier or a submarine. I'm like, that sounds cool. And they're like, it sucks, but you have the wits for it. So I decided to do that, and then I volunteer for the submarine service, because when you volunteer to go into the military, they don't force you to go into submarines. You have to volunteer again for submarines, and I did.
Wow.
And
how many years were you in the submarine division?
So nuke school is about 2 years long, and so I was in for almost 12 years. So about on and off for about 10 years, because you go to shore duty and then back to sea duty and all that stuff.
Nuke school sounds incredibly badass, by the way. I mean, that's not something that most people can say. I've been to nuke school. That's
it's
really
actually
incredible.
It was. I think it was the program was invented by MIT, because what they need to do is they need to get you out to the fleet quickly. So you do what would be predominantly a 4-year degree, and they shove it into less than 2 years.
Wow.
So you have no life whatsoever.
Yes.
You're just constantly studying, doing a lot. And I mean, it was...
That's amazing.
Yeah, sure, badass, I guess, is a word.
Yes, it's one of the very accurate words to describe that. I mean, so the courage, obviously, that it takes to do that. Do you think that sort of segued into how you became an activist and a voice in such a, hot button topic line of conversations that you're having?
No, I mean, it's interesting. So I just got married.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
Danielle.
Danielle,
amazing?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because I was just in Las Vegas, this past few days. We're celebrating. My dad does a speech at our celebration, and he was telling me, he's like, all my friends, it's like, hey, when Nick was 12 years old, and I'm immediately like, all right, Dad, calm down. And he's like, no, it's fine. It's like when he was 10 to 12, I had a talk with his mom, because my dad raised me since I was 1.
Okay,
right? I don't know my biological father, but he stepped in. So he's my father.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we might have a problem child in his hand, because he's 10 to 12, but he has the mind of this 30-year-old, and he's so analytical with everything.
Yeah.
And so my dad was like, it's kind of hard to discipline him sometimes. He's a 6'4" Samoan man.
Oh, wow. Yeah. He's outsmarting us at 3.
So I kind of always been that way, very analytical. Not that, I'm a human being, I have emotions, but sometimes I try to look at things from more of a logical point of view, try to separate my emotions the best way a human being can. And I've always been that way. The reason I got into talking about Israel and being an activist, I was, even during my time in the service, I was making TikToks, conservative politics, contemporary news, nothing about Israel or Jews. I'm not Jewish. So long story short, May 2021, when Hamas launched those 5,000 rockets, was the first time I ever publicly supported Israel, because everyone, especially on TikTok, was just like, free Palestine, free Palestine.
Yes.
And I kind of just made a very simple video. Honestly, it was kind of joking, because all of them took their BLM bio, they took it out and put Free Palestine in. So I didn't even make a joke at that. I made a joke at how they took one out. They didn't even add it on.
Yes.
Go to bed. I wake up the next day full of just DMs. I hope you get gas, you Jew, Hitler this, Hitler that. And I was like, okay, one, I'm not Jewish. They thought I was. And so it kind of, anyone that knows me, I kind of do the opposite a little bit. So if you try to bully me into not talking about something, well, now I'm going to talk about it.
Yes.
I got banned not long
on
after
TikTok.
that. Yeah.
Wow.
Had almost 100,000
I recently
followers.
got my first warning. It's currently there.
Oh,
It was for posting a post that against someone speaking out on Hitler. So I was confused at how me speaking out against the Hitler worshipper was something bannable, but I guess I've been warned.
They just use algorithms. They're like, oh, it said Hitler, and it's just like, no, I'm speaking out against it. I'm on account 20 to 25 now.
No way. That is incredible.
Yeah.
How? So what do you do? They read your account of existence? They just take it off?
There's been times where I'll get a warning, and then after enough warnings, I get banned. There's been a time where I just got banned without any violations. It's very weird. It's gotten a little bit better.
So bizarre. Do you think, I see a whole bunch of content that is incredibly anti-Israel, and I see it being left and has millions and millions of views. So why do you think that these platforms, do you think that's part of the skewed, in the same thing as the mainstream media? Obviously, there's extreme bias. Do you think it's the same thing? Do you think it's accidental?
I think that the pro-Palestinian movement is an ugly cousin of the left, and I do believe that these media organizations target the right, and so I'm not going to say that no one has ever been targeted, no pro-Palestinians ever been targeted, but it's just not the same. And so I think that these media companies, especially TikTok, I think they will target right-wing creators, they'll target Israel, anything that's a little too edgy, I guess, of a conversation, they kind of limit. I think they do that for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that, makes it even more important being a content creator like yourself that has your own platform and having these deep conversations with incredible people? I just recently saw you on Dinesh D'Souza's podcast.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And you had Brandon Tatum on your live. Incredible. Right. He's unbelievable.
Brandon Tatum's great.
And so, you're having these profound conversations with these leaders in thought in the space, and yet you're also being banned at the same time. It's how do you sort of get that around your head at the same time?
I used to care a lot, but then I realized that influence is not the same as following count. And so every time I made a new account, I'd build back up a little quicker than the last time. And there's some people who can have, I'm back up on TikTok, close to 80,000, I think, on TikTok, 100,000 on Instagram. But sometimes I've seen people with even more followers not have as much influence, and sometimes I've seen people with even less followers have way more influence.
Yes,
so I stopped caring about that kind of thing.
Very
when
smart.
I get banned, I just kind of go tell it was my fiance, now my wife. I was just like, I got banned again, and she cares. She's like, are you going to appeal it? What are you going to do? And I'm just like, whatever. And she's like, how do you not care?
I think I'm the same way as her for sure. That I'm like, it's just so unjust because I feel like the amplification of the nonsense has just been so emboldened and so loud and so widespread. What just happened with the head of the BBC, and it's basically in real time we're watching corruption kind of run rampant in terms of who's allowed to speak and what's being shown. And I think deepest concern is that otherwise good people, people who they're not actually pro-terrorist. They don't realize that they've been completely brainwashed to be amplifying the terrorist agenda. So it's almost of course there's those, incredibly hateful anti-Semitic, nutcases, and they have been let kind of run wild in a way that I've never seen before in my lifetime since October 7th. But I'm more concerned about sort of the average kind of American or Australian, or someone who, just is consuming mainstream media and doesn't realize that all they've been really fed for the last 2 years is this narrative of, there's a genocide happening, and that, which is obviously, as someone incredibly intelligent, you can explain the exact statistics and reasons as to why that's not true. But that's a mainstream, thought right now.
For sure. I think that the issue is, and we've heard this term thrown out a lot, is useful idiots. And the reason that term is appropriate is because when you look at some of the most hateful ideologies in the past, Hitler, for example, the Nazis, at some points they had, I believe, a approval rating of 28%. And I think it grew in time and then it fluctuated, but not very much. But, when you have such a hateful ideology like Hamas and some of these Palestinian terrorist organizations that are allowed to, as you say, run wild, you don't need 70% of people supporting you around the world. You don't even need the majority of people. You just need enough people to apologize or at least ignore what you're doing. That's really all you need. You need enough people to directly collaborate with you and directly work with you. Yeah. There was a recent PSR poll. It's the Palestinian Center for Policy Survey and Research. This is like their Pew Research in the Palestinian territories. They just released a new one they asked a lot of questions. It's by Dr. Khalil Shikaki. He's a Palestinian out of Ramallah. Okay. Been doing these polls for like 30 plus years. He asked the Palestinians in both Gaza and Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, and he says, do you believe that Hamas has committed atrocities on October 7th, like killing women and children in their own homes? And 86% of Palestinians said no. They did not commit the atrocities. 86%.
Do you think they genuinely believe that? Or do you think that they are sort of, for lack of a better word, peer pressured by the fact that they live within the extremely terrorist worshipping culture, and they're taught from, literally birth to hate the Jews above wanting to be alive themselves? They're literally taught that. So it's sort of almost to admit that even in a poll would be kind of to go against their culture.
I used to ask myself that question a lot, and then I found that it's not necessarily mutually exclusive. Why can't both be true at the same time? Yes, I do believe they're taught that since they're a kid. No kid comes out of the womb like, I hate Jews. Right. No, of course not. But at the same time, and it's a sad thing, they talk about the abuse. What about the children? What about the children on the pro-Palestinian side? That's a common thing that they ask on my lives and every pro-Israeli lives, but they don't care about the children being abused in a mental way. And so I agree with you. I think that they are brainwashed. At the same time, that still doesn't make it not the reality. Totally. And so therefore, their ideology is that way. All of the Hamas terrorists and PIJ and PRC and Army of Islam, there's so many terrorist organizations, PFLP, DFLP, there's a lot of them. All of those people that were active on October 7th, they grew up watching Tomorrow's Pioneers, which was that Hamas run child network show with a little Mickey Mouse called Farfur, right? They all grew up watching that because it's not a show anymore. But the people that were on October 7th, they were kids during that time.
For sure, yeah. But it's terrorist Sesame Street, essentially.
Exactly.
Yes, it's completely teaching children to hate anyone is evil. Teaching children to grow up to put killing those people in front of everything else is a kind of evil that I think it's really hard for the average person in the West to even understand. Because even in kind of I would say the garden variety bigotry that we experience, horrible and evil for sure, but not sort of violently, actually genocidal, actually wanting to eradicate an entire population of people just because they happen to be a certain ethnicity. It's so wholly bizarre. People with all the kind of I'd say small bigotry in the West comparatively to what that really is. You're talking about an ancient hatred that is so demonic in nature. I mean, I personally, I'm ethnically Jewish, but I'm Christian by faith.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I really don't sort of share about much because it's my roots and my ethnicity. Sure. But my life is, I'm devout Christian. Yeah. And so I think it's so interesting to me that you're so passionate about this cause without, my dear beautiful friend Erin Molan, she's the same, she has no Jewish ethnicity line in her, but she is on the front lines every day fighting for the light and for the truth just because she's a fiercely intelligent and brilliant and moral human. And, she has chosen to use her platform to advocate for the pro-Israel space, and which is just heroic. And so I'm always, and obviously, Brandon, I can't say his name right.
Tatum,
Brandon Tatum is exactly the same in that regard. And there's so many, and I guess I feel like I'm almost in a weird alien hybrid space because I have, that deep connection, obviously, with the Holy Land through my ancestry, but at the same time, it's the most holy land for Christians. So my kind of passion really comes from the fact that, like, I want to safely be able to travel to Israel and go to these holy sites, and and I feel like the way that Israel treats every single religion, every ethnicity is so loving and so all like it's exactly how a godly nation would treat their Christians, their Muslims, it's and so the fact that has been twisted somehow, that most people genuinely believe, like they hear the word Israel and they're like, evil, genocidal. It's so twisted.
They treat the other religions better than their own at times. And I was in Israel it was this last Passover. I went to the Temple Mount for the first time. I've been to Israel twice, but I didn't go the first time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if anyone knows this. I mean, some people know it, but when you go to the Temple Mount and you're not Muslim, whether it be Jewish or someone like me who's not Jewish, just not Muslim or whatever, Christian, atheist, whatever, you are only allowed to go during very specific times, very specific days, and even then you're only allowed to go in one specific entrance. If you're Muslim, you can go to all these different entrances whenever you want. If you're not, now just for context here, the Temple Mount is the holiest spot for the Jewish people in the entire world. It is their holiest spot. It is their, it'd be like Mecca for the Muslims. And it is in Israel. It's not like they are crossing a border or something, and they gave the control of their holiest spot for peace to the Islamic Waqf, which is run by Jordan. Wow. And so for peace, they took their holiest spot. It would be like Muslims saying, okay, for peace, we're going to give control of Mecca to blah. Like, they would never do that, nor would they be expected to do that. And I want to repeat, they would never do that. Muslims would never do that. In fact, I bet they would see it as weak. So the Jews do that. And then, so I get a chance to go onto the Temple Mount, and what I saw, it was very interesting. So the first thing I go up there, a security, that's an Israeli security officer, right? Not Jordanian, not Muslim necessarily, just an Israeli security officer tells us, you guys have to walk through really fast, don't pick up anything, don't stand around, go through, get out, right? And it's just like Jews being treated this way in their holiest spot when it's on their land. Could you imagine if they told Muslims, like, you're not allowed to go on this spot during these days, or told Christians, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is a very popular spot for the Christians. Hey, you're not allowed to go on here unless it's on a Tuesday at 8 a.m. Right. And then if you do go in there, don't touch anything, just get out. Like, yes. And so, it's insane. It's
absolutely insane. And thank you so much for explaining that. I didn't know, like, the details of how. I knew that the holiest site in both, like, Christianity and Judaism is not allowed to be freely accessed by those people because it's under sort of Islamic control. That was my basic understanding of it. But
it's very hard, and they're consistently building new mosques since the 60s. They've been trying to build new mosques to try to erase the Jewish indigeneity from the land and history.
And I think that's, like, such a paramount thing for people to understand, that it sort of baffles me that people can't kind of grasp how simple it is that, like, the Judeo-Christian values do not like force themselves onto anyone. They exist. People are freely allowed to convert to Judaism if that's their calling, if that's really what they feel in their spirit, that they are welcomed. It's not an easy process, but they are definitely welcomed. And obviously the same with Christianity. I mean, like, we're more than happy for anyone to find Jesus. In fact, it's part of our, like, purpose is to just spread the good news and spread the gospel, so that hopefully, as many people will get the blessing of having a relationship with Christ. But in terms of the aggression and like, lack of autonomy, like, it's required, for, like, the extremist I was struggling last episode with the extreme Islamists. Yes. Sure.
Well, Islam is definitely more political than Christianity, and definitely more than Judaism. Right. And I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, I don't know if you should say that." No, it's true. Yeah. And even Muslims will probably deny it, but I can prove it. When you look at the Muslims' fight for Palestine, and you ask a Muslim, why is it that almost, I mean, obviously there's outliers, but almost every Muslim is pro-Palestinian and deeply find that cause? They'll probably say something like, well, because we are moral as Muslims and we see an immorality. Okay, if it's solely about immorality and not about land, politics, and not about you just not wanting a Jewish state there, I can accept that answer. But why aren't you talking about Sudan then? Because Sudan are Arab Muslims slaughtering non-Arab Muslims, both Muslims, just one's Arab, one's non-Arab. Yeah. You can see the bloodstains from space. Why don't you talk about it? Yeah, you have a couple, might make a statement at most, but I don't see the streets filled with, you know, Sudanese. I don't see people protesting. I don't see the UN saying, protest. I don't see an ICJ case or ICC arrest warrants or any of that. Yeah. So if it truly is just, oh, you see yourself as more moral because you're Muslims, and so therefore you're just calling out an immorality, I'd accept that answer if you were talking about what's happening to Yemen children. I'd accept that answer if you were talking about Sudan. I'd accept that answer if you talked about any other immorality, even outside of other Muslims. But you don't.
Absolutely. And do you think like that, you know, essentially blaringly obvious double standard, maybe glaringly is the right word, glaringly obvious double standard that is you know, so extreme. I see it in Candace Owens, I see it in Tucker Carlson. It's the same. It's like how many times, I think it was one of your videos actually, like that ran through the, you know, 800, he'd mentioned Israel 800 times. That was brilliant. And he'd mentioned, you know, the actual genocide of Christians by the radical Islamists in Nigeria currently. He mentioned it for the first time the other day, and it was not to reprimand anyone. It was to deny it, essentially. But like, so that obsession with Israel, that obsession with the, you know, Jewish state, what is that in your mind? And like,
I mean, I think it's spiritual. I try to answer this question in multiple ways because not everyone's religious. I'm a believer in the God of Abraham. So obviously I have that belief. I think it is spiritual. I think it is prophecy. I think it is biblical. But also, and looking at it historically, I mean, that land is a very, very high tension. I mean, it connects 3 continents together in terms of trade, geopolitics. It's very big. You just add in religion on top of that, and then add in Islam and Judaism, and then of course Christians in the surrounding region. Israel is the only place where Christians are growing in the Middle East, MENA region, really, I believe. And so, yeah, you know, you have these bad faith actors of people that are just like, well, I saw this video of these Christians being spit on by this one. Okay, yeah, I'm sure that did happen. Well, I mean, I saw the video too, and that's disgusting. I don't condone that at all. But one, that's not beheading. 2, it's not persecuting you out of the land. And 3, nobody really condones that. When I say nobody, I'm talking about, you know, the consensus, right? Yes. If it was culturally sound to do that, you wouldn't have a few videos that you just keep recycling for the past 10 years. You would have, there's hundreds of thousands of people in Jerusalem at any time. At least tens of thousands of those, if not 100,000 plus, are Christians. If it was culturally sound, you would get a video every 5 seconds, 24 hours a day. Not you wouldn't be recycling the same videos. Exactly.
And to you know, state that an entire religion or entire group of people are beholden to an individual amongst them's actions is literally insane. I mean, I hate to say it, but there's evil Jewish people, there's evil Christians. Like I've dealt with some, I mean, people who call themselves, I personally believe that, you know, if you're doing really atrocious things, you're not having an active relationship with God, because to be able to be that evil in this world, it's like, that's like a demonic mask, and just using Christianity or Judaism as like a, you know, but that's no reflection of either of those religions.
And I tell people all the time, like, hey, big shock, you guys. Jews are also human beings. I know, it's just a huge shock. They also can do wrong things. They could be jerks. They could be great people. Everything in between. Muslim, Christian, atheist, doesn't matter. And I'm so fascinated of what you just touched on about the prophetic component of all of this, because I saw you know, this clip of you and Dinesh, and of course, like his film, The Dragon's Prophecy, is just extraordinary. And I think I think everyone should watch it if they get a chance, because I mean, I see everything through like the spiritual warfare lens, because to me it makes the most sense of the world, of anything. Like, it's like the me and my own personal life and what I've survived, and the way that God's led me through that. And then on a macro scale, what I'm witnessing
in the world, it's so obviously spiritual because, for instance, like the devil, the enemy's kind of whole MO is deception, distortion, confusion. Obviously, the very extreme, like violent evil, but it's also this subtle evil that's been, the cause of, for instance, like how did Hitler get into power in the first place? He infiltrated the Germans' minds to hate the Jews themselves. That's some deep-seated kind of subtle demonic work, Like these are not the whole nation didn't wake up one day and sort of, it was like purposeful. And I feel like the enemy, who, I see it happening in real time, uses people and uses like that sort of subtlety to almost like spiritually brainwash them, and then they become puppets for his agenda without them even realizing.
Right. That's interesting because, I think that's how like when you look at the evilest people in history, I think that's how they always did it. A lot of the times they target the youngest adults. Adult might mean something different depending on the time period, but the youngest adults because they are the most impressionable, but also most useful for evil people. Dinesh had something kind of interesting. He said the devil is always the first anti-Semite.
Wow.
And of course, this is also the concept that the devil does not create, he only mimics and distorts. And
that was the exact, like it was you saying that to Dinesh. I think I was like, wow, Nick, that was amazingly insightful. Yes, he can't create, and he's so jealous that God is the ultimate creator and that he can only create, that he attempts to mirror and mimic that creation in distortion. And I think it's really fascinating because it's like if you sort of study evil up close, which obviously, no one sets out in their life like, oh, that's what I want to do with my life. But if you find yourself in these situations and you're up close with it, the best thing you could possibly do is, study it essentially. Sure. And some of my favorite authors like Scott Peck, has this brilliant book. It's called People of the Lie. And he's most famously known for The Road Less Traveled. And he's like in heaven now, but what the work that he left on this earth is so brilliant. And I mean, that book I think should be like on number one.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah, it's so good.
You should watch this movie. I always recommend this movie to people. I really don't like to say the word like Holocaust genre in movies because it feels a little weird, but sure, you get what I'm saying. There's movies that are based around the Holocaust, and this one speaks to me the most. It's called God on Trial. It's not a very famous movie at all. Very low budget. I haven't heard of
it. That's amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah. And so I think you can actually see it on YouTube for free, honestly.
God on Trial? God on Trial. I'm definitely going to watch it.
The reason I recommend this is because, so I think it started off as a play, maybe a book and then a play, or just a play, and it was a Holocaust survivor that made it, and they were like, wow, that's such an incredible story. How'd you come up with it? He's like, come up with it. This happened. This is what happened. The whole movie, other than a couple scenes, takes place in just one of the bunk rooms, I guess you want to call it, at Auschwitz.
Wow.
And essentially, one of the Jewish people says, how could God do this to us? And he starts cursing God. And then another one of the Jews there said, don't speak that way about God. He can hear you even in here. And they start kind of arguing like, no, God did this to us. No, God doesn't exist. No, God can hear you. Let's pray, and so on. And so long story short, one of the guys ends up, who was a judge before being sent to the Holocaust camp, is like, let's do a trial for God. And it was about, the question is, and of course I won't ruin it for you. The question is just, did God break the covenant with the Jewish people because of the Holocaust?
Wow.
One of the interesting lines in that point is one of them mentions how in the Bible, in the Tanakh, the Old Testament, they mention how even some adversaries of the Jewish people are known as God's servant in the Bible. And it's very interesting how it says, my servant. And so one of the Jews even argues, is Hitler acting as a servant? Is it like, it's the reason I recommend the movie is because it really dives in deep to the questions that are even uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then the ending always, I've seen the movie like 10 times and I don't cry a lot. That one, it gets me because of, what they do find to be the case, guilty or not guilty, and then what they do at the end anyways. And it's very deep. And the questions, one more thing is there's one of the guys there who just says, to a couple of Jews, says, I'm not a Jew. And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm not a Jew. I was a Jew-hating, German-loving, patriotic person. My kids are in the Nazi youth camp. Like, what are you doing here? He's like, they found out that 2 generations before, his family was Jewish and they converted to Christianity.
I literally just got cold chills. Like, I actually...
He didn't know, but the Nazis knew, and they sent him to the camp anyway. So when I look at a lot of these... my live calls them as a Jews, the ones that say, well, as a Jew, free Palestine, right? I'm not Jewish. I try to kind of, go down this path in a more sensitive way. But at the same time, I'm also authentically me.
Yeah.
You're not safe from any evil ideology or any evil anti-Semitism. You might be used right now. You might be used right now. You might be tokenized, but you're not going to be safe from it. You were right. It wasn't in the Holocaust. This isn't going to be any different. Now, luckily, the state of Israel does exist, and so the Jewish people do not have to wait for good faith actors to come save them. They get a chance to have the decision themselves.
Yes. So. And that is so well said, Nick. And you're exactly right. I mean, even like, as a Christian with Jewish ethnicity, I would be, it doesn't matter that I've given my life to Jesus. I'm Jewish enough that I would be that
character I just mentioned.
It's absolutely like, paramount. I think not just for everyone who has Jewish blood or Jewish heritage. It's knowing that the insanity of that hate, that ancient hatred being so strong that something that like is fundamentally unchangeable. Every soul that's born into this world, that is proudly Jewish or, reluctantly Jewish or whatever, like that's not someone's choice. And it doesn't make any one of their actions in this world either right or wrong, like fundamentally, just because it's an ethnicity. Like that's what it is. I mean, it's obviously a lot more than that. And it's I don't want to like in any way kind of like
I think the modern term is ethno-religion, but I don't even like that term. I just say it's a tribe of people, a nation.
That's
if you will.
a good way of saying it. And so it's like but if any other tribe, if any other sort of ethnicity or race was targeted the way that the Jewish people are right now, I think it would be so uncool and so like like the liberals would be up in arms about, how could, but for some reason, when it's about Israel and the Jewish people, that's not the case. And it's so weird to witness. And I think that's also like the spiritual blindness that it takes to be able to, even the word Zionist becoming like a dirty word. It's so incredible, the distortion that's happening with that. Like, obviously to be a Zionist just means like to believe that Israel has the right to exist. It's very simple.
It's in the root word Zion. Zion is Jerusalem and the hills of Jerusalem and the surrounding areas. And so someone's like, well, you're just a Zionist. I'm like, I mean, listen, Zionist is it's a term that it's kind of like when people ask, are you a Zionist? I say yes, because it's just like to move on with the conversation. But Zionism is complete. It's done. Israel exists. Colloquially, we say Zionism to mean like, are you pro-Israel? But I honestly, I don't really like the term. I mean, yes, I'm a Zionist, sure. But at the same time, there was a meeting or an interview that they found that was lost for a while, but it was in 1968 of David Ben-Gurion. They asked him this question, are you a Zionist? And he's like, what is a Zionist? Like, he's like, it's done. It's complete. Right. But I guess technically we use that word today.
No, I mean, I love that. Like, sort of, it's like, what's your point? Like,
if you go to Israel, they do not go around like, I'm a Zionist. They don't use that word a lot.
Imagine if there was an equivalent word to believe in the United States right to exist. It's like, what? Yeah, exactly. Of course. Yeah. That's so brilliantly said. I'm fascinated. What is your own personal like walk with the Lord? Do you have your own faith, and how has that shifted or changed since you've been?
I mean, I was baptized as a Catholic as a baby, before I could remember. I did leave the church a while ago, probably preteen, teenage years, because I just kind of had a bit of an issue with some of the extra stuff that they put on top of Christianity. Then I determined myself to be agnostic, and then once I went into college, I was like an atheist because I don't know, I was young, I was edgy, and I was just like, I don't believe in anything because I'm smarter. And then, as I learned more and became more wise, and then I joined the Navy, and I, I totally believe that traveling definitely broadens the mind, seeing other cultures. And as my mind became broader, I realized, no, I do believe in God. Today, I call myself a Noahide. It's just somebody that I believe in the God of Abraham. I don't particularly follow like religious practices. I follow the laws of Noah. But, you know, Jews, they follow 613 mitzvot, I think they say. No, I don't follow that. I don't keep kosher. I'm not Jewish. You know, my wife is. But she doesn't really keep kosher.
I think there's a lot of different levels of observancy when it comes
she's become actually more observant, I think, as she's gotten older. And, you know, her love for me and my respect for Judaism, I think it's gotten her to become more interested in finding her own like observance level.
That's and so beautiful.
She starts to light the Shabbat candles now and stuff like that. And I love it. I love Shabbat. I don't keep it, you know, like maybe a Hasidic community does, but at the same time, just that keeping a day aside to just let's relax, you know, today. And it can definitely recalibrate you.
I mean, that was like one of the, you know, most adamant things about Charlie Kirk was you know, so he was such a true fan of that. Oh, I know.
I just saw him back in the TPU event at the SAS, the Student Action Summit, and man, did he have such a presence.
He really did.
And it wasn't just because he was very tall. I mean, the way he smiled, the way he would stop. Like I said hi to him, and he could have just been like, "Hey," and just like kept walking. But he actually stopped a little bit, and like such a presence, beautiful. Very honest guy.
You got to have like moments with him in real life.
A little bit, yeah. And I was looking forward to seeing him again in December at the Amfest. That's what really pisses me off so much about what Candace Owens is doing, because the stuff that's like people are like, oh, what's the problem with asking questions? I don't think anyone has a problem with asking questions. What we have a problem with is just purposely muddying the waters and blaming, at this point, everyone but the left, everyone but Tyler Robinson. She's talking about, I actually do watch her show.
You do?
I do. There's a couple episodes I need to catch up on, but other than that, I watch them live if I can, or within the hour of posting. And you know what? I actually recommend people to watch it, and I'll tell you why. Because when you get these little clips of her saying the dumbest stuff, it is fun, and we go like, hey, you said this and you said this. But when you watch her show, you're going to realize how ridiculous she is, even more than just clips can hold. She will do a whole hour-long podcast, and in almost every podcast, she'll have about 30 seconds to a minute of that hour. That's, when I say bigger news, I just mean relative to what she says. I'm not saying that it's actually true or big. I'm just saying like you have to watch that whole hour to get like, you know, 10 seconds here, 10 seconds here, about a minute tops worth of actual, that's interesting information. But then it ends up just muddying the water. It can possibly taint a jury pool, and the anger I will feel if Tyler Robinson gets off or gets a small punishment or anything because of even minimal work that she has done, that's going to make me very upset. And now people are coming after Erica. And so last night, or 2 nights ago, not Candace's episode she released today, but the one before, she talks about this Egyptian plane, or a couple Egyptian planes. And she said that, it turns out it wasn't following Charlie, it was following Erica. It's okay, but what does that mean? Are you saying that Erica's involved with these Egyptian planes? Are you saying that they're targeting her? Why did they kill Charlie then? She doesn't answer, though. She keeps herself just vague enough to have deniability, but she knows what her audience thinks. And so now they were already attacking Erica, now they're attacking her even more. Answer these questions. We demand you about this $8.6 million, Here's the issue that I have. So she implied strongly Israel, and the Jews and Jewish donors in Israel. They killed Charlie Kirk. Okay, and the reason is because recently he'd been turning away from Israel, right? That's what she said. Recently, especially the past 48 hours, but the past months before he died. But the Egyptian planes have been following him, according to Candace, for years. So let's bear with your theory for a second. So you're saying that they were following him using Egyptian military planes. Let's just pretend it was Israel, just to buy into the theory for a second. they were following him for multiple years. What, just in case he changed his mind? What are you saying? And then she says, well, why did this plane leave, right after Charlie got killed? Oh, wait a minute. UTC doesn't mean Utah time. It means Universal Time Coordinate, Zulu time.
I mean, trying to track the thoughts of an insane person, essentially. I mean, when I say insane, I mean that like with love, because clearly when you say ridiculously insane, made up things that contradict each other on a public platform, no matter how popular that public platform is, that makes you an insane person, because you can't genuinely believe like two things exactly that are opposing, especially when one of them is like when both of them are so conspiratorial and twisted and entirely designed to confuse and manipulate people's own minds to turn on something. Like the idea that she is trying to convince people that this grieving widow, this amazing, beautiful, strong, faithful woman, Erica, is somehow in any tiny way responsible for the tragic, horrifying public assassination of her amazing husband is so demonic in its nature. I mean, I'm not like it is.
Or the fact that you believe that she even owes you an answer. And so here's my issue is if you're going to even slightly insinuate that Erica either has something to do with it or that she just at least owes answers, even if you're going to even slightly insinuate that, you better have irrefutable proof, not speculation. And Candace Owens loves to say, I don't know, but I know. So that in layman's terms, I mean, what that means is you don't have irrefutable proof. Yes. You have speculation. And again, I'm all for asking questions. Really, nobody cares that you ask questions. We care about muddying the waters for the sake. Candace Owens doesn't bother me as much as her fans, because for Candace Owens, she's gaining something from it, whether it be money. I don't know. I mean, her husband's very well off. I don't even know if she needs that. If it's just narcissism, clicks, whatever, she's getting something.
I have an intel on that, like specifically because I actually like had my makeup done for years by her previous makeup artist who I will not say that on the podcast just because out of respect for her, but I know great detail of the fact that someone who worked extremely close to her every single day for years, is it's bad. It's really bad. And so I would just say that everything you're saying is correct. Yes, you nailed it. Yeah. But that's dangerous. It's dangerous, like to have someone who's so influential and like you said, the millions of people's minds right now are sort of, I guess, up for grabs in a way. If they're getting, most of their sources of information from, like, if they're not listening to mainstream media, which is not a bad thing at all, but they're only listening to Candace Owens and they don't, and they aren't putting that up against a voice like yours or a voice like Dinesh or Aaron or anyone who's actually making sense on these subjects, of course they're going to, get twisted in their own mind and sort of start to because it's like if you're only being fed poison, eventually you will be poisoned. Like,
right. We wanted to, on the conservative side, lower the ratings of mainstream media. And like you said, that's not a bad thing, because this is not a defense of mainstream media at all.
When I say mainstream, I have to emphasize, I actually think Fox does a brilliant job of I don't see Fox as a mainstream media, but I have to, when I just say mainstream media, I sort of mean like everybody else.
I think Fox is relatively better. I'm gonna be honest, I don't watch mainstream media or even Fox as much. I just do a lot of my own research. And you do so much research. Like that's so evident in every piece of content that you put out, that it's so heavily researched, and you, unlike Candace, have abundant facts to back up each statement that you're making. Oh man, I have offered to, and I know she's seen my videos because on Instagram it shows you who sees them, and she's seen a lot of the times where I've debunked her, and I've even had someone who, I'm not gonna say who, but has a mutual friend that connected with her about debating. She won't do it, and notice so we want to get rid of not rid of mainstream media, but lower their ratings for people to watch other people. But we don't want to replace it with, bad stuff either. And so when you look at the these conspiracy theories, which Americans love conspiracy theories because we're naturally a distrusting people, right?
Do you think that's a specifically American thing, or do you think like worldwide people, like there's something in human nature that wants to kind of cling on to something that almost like the excitement around, did we land on the moon, whatever that is?
I think human beings are tribal, and so people, regardless of their nationality, will want to cling on to something that agrees with their view because it makes them feel smarter. Like, this person agrees, I told you I was right. But Americans, and this is just my opinion, I could be wrong, but Americans have a very unique sense of just distrust, especially in authority. That's just, that goes back to our birth, and a little bit of Australia's too, actually. And so I think what happens is when somebody comes up and says, I have alternative facts, and I'm going to give you just enough to make your mind think, but I'm not really going to. Every time Candace Owens releases an episode, she always says, the biggest bombshell, I'm going to drop it. She did that 2 episodes ago, and that's why I watched it live on my drive back from Vegas, because I was like, what's this big bombshell? What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, the Egyptian plane was actually following Erica. Oh, they're missing $8.6 million in financial records. First off, I actually looked into that. She quoted this other YouTube video, and I watched the whole thing on my way to this podcast, actually. It's only 20 minutes long. And such a ridiculous point. So first off, I agree that TPU should answer these questions, but their biggest find was that they had 3 shell companies that were missing the 990 reports. Long story short, from just this last reporting file, which should have been reported in May 15th or filed in May 15th. Yeah, just so everyone knows, because I've dealt with some of this paperwork before, it is something that I think TPU should answer, but it doesn't mean it's missing. This guy played it off like they never filed it. No, it could just not be scanned. It could just not, could have been filed in a different way. It does not mean they didn't file it. It just means you don't, at this moment, have public access to it. Again, I hope TPU figures that out if there is something weird, but that doesn't mean that automatically. Then the next biggest thing they said, they reported a rising salary, but they said they have 0 employees. Again, you can have 0 employees and hire 1099 contractors or whatever, and that would go in the salary box. I'm not saying that they shouldn't answer these questions, but it's the problem is Candace and the person that made that YouTube video, I don't know his name, they rely off people just not knowing. And so they're going to listen. A guy's in a suit, a girl's on a podcast, whatever. And they're like, I believe them because they know you don't know. So they'll just give you just enough.
Yes. And that's so well said. And do you think that, in my understanding, it's like if people don't pray for their own spiritual discernment, if they don't have that direct discernment that is given to us, by God, my understanding is that it's from God, and even if people don't believe in God, they know fundamentally when something is true and when it's not, if they're connected to a source, which, like if people are giving that sort of spiritual authority away to someone like Candace, in terms of, I believe that people are worshipping something whether they know it or not.
That's exactly
if they have faith in God, then thank God that's to, God himself. If they don't, then they could be worshipping, celebrity culture, or it's money, or like fame, or whatever other thing that they put in place of that holy worship. Yeah. And so I think it's just the same with someone like Tucker or Candace, in that, they're given this authority that they obviously are not deserving of, and quite dangerously put in a place in someone's mind that this person is like a higher power to me, and I'm going to listen to what they say. And even if it becomes very dangerous, hateful, anti-Semitic, evil rhetoric, they are not checking everything. I have seen actually some posts of people that are like, I was following Candace for years, and then my spirit started to feel really uncomfortable, and I prayed about it, and now I'm making this post because
yesterday, somebody who posted that, who was an eyewitness to Charlie Kirk's shooting, and she said she immediately clinged herself to Candace Owens because, and it makes sense, she went through a trauma, and it was probably an awful thing to witness. And so she clinged to Candace, and she just made a video yesterday saying, I no longer listen to her because she's like, at first I was buying everything, but now she's like, she's claiming this and then this and then this, and none of it actually even adds up. And now she's just muddying the waters. And all she's doing really is she's she's ruining the legacy of Charlie Kirk, her quote unquote best friend. I want to say you nailed it with and I say it all, you almost like took the words out of my mouth. People need something, and hopefully that's God. But unfortunately, it isn't always. But human beings need to cling on to something. When especially atheists, when I was an atheist, I had this thought of just like, oh, I think I'm better or superior. No, you just cling to something else, right? If it's not the morality and the vision of God, it will be Democrats, Republicans, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. It'll be Black Lives Matter. It'll be LGBT. It'll be Palestine. There's a lot of things you can cling yourself onto. If it's not, and there's also sub things you cling yourself onto. Number one thing in my life is God. And there's things that I can cling myself onto, and I hope that is in the pathway still to God.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't understand that. And I ask a lot of these people as Candace fans, or even Candace Owens herself, Tucker Carlson, if you guys say you're believers in the teachings of Jesus Christ, and whether you believe in Jesus Christ or not, I don't think anyone can deny that the teachings aren't beautiful. Of course they are. And that's something I bring up a lot on my live. The difference between the teachings of Muhammad, which I've read the Quran twice.
You have?
Yeah,
wow.
I've read the Quran twice. I've read over almost 20,000 hadiths.
Wow.
I've read Sunnah. That's a whole different podcast for a different day. But like the teachings between him and Jesus Christ is night and day.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, I have to ask people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, obviously you're never going to be what you believe Jesus Christ, because you as a Christian will say he's perfect. But I ask you, do you actually really think the things you're saying, would Jesus, if he was in front of you, would he actually be like, I totally agree, you're doing the right thing. That's exactly Nick, how you should have worded that.
Is like the perfect examples of what we were talking about earlier, that you can call yourself a Christian. You can call yourself whatever you want. It doesn't mean that you're actually walking with the living God. It doesn't, you can call yourself, a good person. All narcissists do, but it doesn't mean that you are. Like it's the fruit. And I think, as Christians we're taught it's the fruit. Like you will be judged by your fruit, and God sees everything. And the fruit that, Candace and Tucker, and I don't even want to say his name, but he's just everywhere right now, like Nick Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes,
It's just like, yuck. And the fruits of that are I've done like 2 posts about him, and obviously there's probably people that are doing many, many, many more. Every single time I open my phone right now, I'm getting, thank you so much, every single time I'm going to say that again. Every single time I open my phone right now, I have like dozens of alerts of comments, but only 1 or 2 are actual comments from, a follower or a new follower. Most of them are these vile anti-Semitic, like things I've never seen people writing in public before. And it's wild to me. It was happening, as soon as I started speaking more openly about my pro-Israel views, but I've never seen the level of hatred coming in. Like it's constant. And these are just, from a couple of posts. And so I'm like sure that people, I don't know what he calls himself but I know that Candace and Tucker do, and I know that they're all part of the same, like it's like this infiltration of the minds of people who are looking for answers and who are looking for someone to believe and follow, and it's being heavily corrupted right now by these individuals, and it does concern me.
I think it's totally there's some kind of infiltration and trying to split up the conservatives for sure, and trying to warp the young minds of America. I'm not, but you're a Christian, so just so one of my favorite verses in the Christian, because I read the Christian Bible, I read the Tanakh, I read the Quran.
That's amazing. You're like a spiritual encyclopedia. That's so cool. I
remind people of the verse in the Christian Bible. It says, if you feel hated, remember the world hated me first, or if the world hates you. So, I don't mind being hated. I don't mind the hate comments. If anything, I think it's a good thing, because the world has consistently throughout all of history and up till modern history has made the wrong choice, and the popular thing that sooner or later goes away, because evil always gets destroyed.
Yes, it does.
The popular thing was always the wrong side.
Yeah.
Always.
Wow.
I mean, Nazism, slavery, it's always been the wrong side. I had someone on my live last night come up and said, why do you think that there's so many people that don't agree with you? And I'm like, do you think that's going to change my mind? Like, do you really think I'm going to be like, you're right. I'm just not that popular. I guess I should change.
That's a really good point.
It's ridiculous.
I think I've had, conversations in my personal group. Obviously the vast majority of, my closest people are in alignment with my beliefs, but because it's not the popular opinion, I also have those who I love deeply who are part of they're brainwashed and they don't know it. And it breaks my heart. It literally breaks my heart because I'm like, they genuinely believe that there's something wrong with me for, coming out and being extremely vocal on my very pro-Israel. And, it's like they genuinely believe like she's lost her mind. She's on the wrong side. And it's like, that's heartbreaking, because.
Yeah. You're nicer than I am. I cut it off. No, it's just, you're a lot sweeter than I am.
Nick, you're so fabulous. I'm so grateful that we had this conversation, and I just can't wait to continue to follow your journey because Absolutely. I know it's only the beginning and you're reaching so many people every day on your platforms. Mm-hmm. And I just pray that continues and that you'll awaken millions of souls to the truth. And
same with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you so much.